Hey guys, welcome back to Chris and Harry Unplugged, episode 21. My name is Chris Mowry. I'm a Gen Z liberal. Started TikTok about a year ago and hopped right into the social media political field that is ever evolving to try to get Democrats and Joe Biden elected. That is me.
And I'm Harry Sisson. I'm also a 21-year-old liberal who's been doing TikTok for close to 4 years now. We've both been working in politics in some capacity for a while now. We both do short form, and now we're also have a podcast on top of it, so we can talk more liberal politics.
Right,
you know,
right. We can scream about liberal politics in a longer form. Yeah, right, in a different way, every Monday at 1 p.m. So for those of you returning, we appreciate you being here. We're going to change up the format of the podcast. We told you we took a break. We really want to make this the best possible, and so that's what we're going to do. So now every single week you come here, I'm going to bring a story to Harry that we're going to talk about. Harry's going to bring a story to me, and we're going to talk about it, kind of surprise each other with our political stories of the week. And obviously it will flow into mainstream news, probably a ton of stories that you have not heard, and it should just be a really great time. So yeah, if you're listening Monday, 1 o'clock, happy Monday. Harry, what was your weekend like, man? What was your week like? Really, we haven't talked. It's been a few days.
Yeah, man. It's been busy. You know, I got finals and school is really heating up in that capacity. You know, politics is still going on in the background as well. You know, it's just been messy. You know, all that good stuff. How about you, man? How was your week overall?
Good, man. Good. Just hanging in there, trying to, you and I have been doing those live streams on TikTok that have been quite entertaining. Debates on TikTok, trying to line those up. You know, push content. You and I destroyed my sleep schedule. Absolutely, like unequivocally destroying you in every video game you picked.
Oh, wow. This guy's trash. I beat this guy in literally every video game, right? So He's talking all this smack on a podcast, brother.
Right. Harry and I decided we'd nuke our sleep schedules. Just like, one day, 3 a.m. turned to 4 a.m. turned to like sunrise of us playing Modern Warfare and Madden and Fortnite, and this guy's not good at video games, by the way.
Yeah, I remember the other night it was like 6:30 in the morning. Chris literally threw his remote at the wall because I kept beating him in Madden, bro. It was terrible.
Right, yeah, for sure.
That definitely happened.
But it's been a good week. So yeah, I say we just hop right into it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's just hop right into it. You know what?
All right.
Let's go with your story first. I want to be surprised off the get-go, man. I just want to know what's going on.
Okay. I like it, dude. What my hair, if you're watching on YouTube right now, man, the hair is going every which direction. All right. So we're going to pull this up for our YouTube viewers. And obviously, if you're listening on audio, I'll read it to you. Now, there's a little bit of a starter with this. If you're familiar right now, it's all over national news. There's a woman named Katie Cox in Texas who is pregnant with a non-viable pregnancy. Her baby has a fatal anomaly, meaning that her baby will not survive the pregnancy. It's virtually impossible, and with that, it is posing a risk to her health. She could get seriously ill from a baby being inside her body that passes, and also if that does happen and she's forced to keep the baby inside of her, she will poses a serious risk to her fertility as well. So we're talking about the life of the mother at risk, the baby is not going to survive, etc. Now, Texas has very, very strict abortion laws, and so this was really one of the first lawsuits of its time after Roe v. Wade. She said this is just a lot of Democrats and her as well say this is torture. I need an abortion, and a lower court ruled in favor of her, and then the Supreme Court in Texas stepped in and actually ruled against her. And the Attorney General in Texas, Ken Paxton, and you may have heard of Ken Paxton before. He has literal felonies on his ballot. He's not a good guy. Ken Paxton stepped in and said, basically, you're not going to get this abortion. And he threatened to sue any hospital. He specifically mentioned 3 hospitals and threatened to sue them if they tried to give Katie Cox an abortion. Dude, my hair's going ballistic. So it was absolutely disgusting. And as of right now, Monday, December 11th, Katie Cox is not able to get an abortion. Now, that has been all over national news because obviously it's showing the huge ramifications of Roe v. Wade. And even when they say that there's an exception, if the mother's life is at risk, clearly there's not. Now, there's one more story, actually, and another lawsuit that almost nobody is familiar with that was filed pretty much alongside Katie Cox and was the second lawsuit of its time after Roe v. Wade. Same concept in Kentucky. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. This is present as we're recording. The story has been updated. Sorry about the ads, but you see this is from the Lexington Herald. Kentucky woman sues state over abortion ban so she can terminate her pregnancy. A Kentucky woman Friday filed an emergency class action lawsuit asking a Jefferson County judge to allow her to terminate her pregnancy. Can you see the screen, by the way?
I can, yeah. Wait, when was this?
This was, let's see. So this is a different video that I'm actually going to play, but this article was posted on it was updated on December 8th.
So it's like relatively
Friday.
recently that she filed this lawsuit.
It's like really recently, like literally this past weekend.
Okay.
It's the first lawsuit of its kind in Kentucky since the state banned nearly all abortions in 2022, etc. So it was obviously Katie Cox filed her lawsuit this weekend, and this woman did the same. She's going by Jane Doe. She does not want to be named, understandably, because this is, Katie Cox is going through the most traumatic experience of her life on national television. So I really feel for Katie Cox, but she's 8 weeks pregnant. Now, Katie Cox is like 20 weeks pregnant, so there's some people there who say, X, Y, and Z, but 8 weeks pregnant, and she's seeking an abortion because, same concept, her baby will not survive the pregnancy. And she is not legally allowed to do so because of the Kentucky abortion ban that is pretty much, it's a very strict, same concept as Texas. There is really no, again, when you see these things in these states where they say, oh, there's an exception for rape or incest, or when the life of the mother is at risk. Sorry. Really, in reality, that's not very enforceable. It's very unclear how that works, and we're starting to see this now because what Democrats have mentioned and very few people mention is that there's no process in a lot of these states that have these very, very strict abortion laws, and they say, okay, well, we have exceptions, but there's no clear process on how to actually get those exceptions. And some Republicans have said, like, if you get sexually assaulted and you get pregnant and you via their written law, you are allowed to get an abortion. Some Republicans have said you need to show up to a court of law in front of a judge and prove that you were sexually assaulted. And obviously that adds a whole nother layer. We're talking about women get sexually assaulted. It's very difficult for that to be reported because it's such a traumatic experience. Now, to get an abortion from the person who sexually assaulted you have to prove to a judge, but how does that even, there's a lot of question marks there. So regardless of that, this was filed in Jefferson County Court, and it's a class action lawsuit to see if other women will come forward. Because of, the lawsuit says here, Jane Doe brings this action on behalf of herself and a class of similarly situated people who now or later become pregnant and seek an abortion in Kentucky but cannot obtain one in the Commonwealth because of the challenged abortion ban. In a news release, Jane Doe said that she was proud to be a Kentuckian and I love the life and family I've built here, but I'm angry that now I am pregnant and do not want to be. The government is interfering in my private matters and blocking me from having an abortion. And then it goes on to say that there's obviously been pending lawsuits between Kentucky and abortion providers about some of the legality about this, and you can check out this article. Like I said, it's in the Lexington Herald. But, almost nobody knows, and no one's talking about alongside Katie Cox, this second lawsuit.
Right. This is interesting, man.
And I thought it was very fascinating because, essentially, I think that we're going to start to see a lot more of these lawsuits take place. And I think my hope is on a national level, people are going to really start to see the ramifications of no Roe v. Wade. And I think that's kind of what you and I have tried to do on social media with a lot of these stories. We talked extensively in a past podcast about a little girl who had just started first grade who was sexually assaulted in her backyard and not able to get an abortion. And those type of stories don't get a lot of national attention. And that's really where Democrats need to say, this is the ramification of not having access to abortion, you know. And obviously, you know, you can get into a contested debate about obviously they should have a constitutional right to have an abortion regardless of, you know, the circumstance. But you're seeing, you know, people whose lives are at risk, Katie Cox and this other woman holding babies that could potentially kill them. And you have the Attorney General of Texas coming forward and saying, you know, good luck. If
Right.
any doctor is willing to do this, we will take you to criminal court. And yeah.
Yeah, dude. I thought the second lawsuit is new to me, but obviously we've both made videos about Katie Cox. We've talked about her a little bit more. And what I thought was really disgusting is how she went to, you know, the court. She got a court order, but Ken Paxton, and this is why she sued the state, Ken Paxton was like, yeah, she hasn't proved that the baby could kill her or could hurt her in any capacity, or the fetus, I should say, could hurt her in any capacity. And you have these doctors talking about how it could lead to a uterine rupture. It could lead to a hysterectomy for her. It could lead to her not being fertile ever again. And, you know, Ken Paxton's just like, no, sorry, you can't get an abortion. And it's like, I'm not quite sure how much more you need to do. She also, the original woman, and kind of connection to this lawsuit you're referencing here, Katie Cox went to the emergency room 3 to 4 times with different pregnancy symptoms, and it's still not enough. So, like, I think what this second lawsuit highlights, and of course the issue with Katie Cox, among the other lawsuits that probably have gone under the radar relatively, is that Republicans are making it nearly impossible for a woman to control her own body, make decisions for her and her family under any circumstance. And as you were mentioning earlier, I was kind of thinking while you were listening, or while you were talking about, like, you know, rape or incest exceptions. And it is incredibly hard to prove, and it is incredibly hard in a Republican state with Republican judges to get them to be like, yeah, you deserve the right to get an abortion, because with a rapist, for example, you have to, like, oh, this person raped me. How do you prove that in that amount of time? How do you prove it until because that's rape cases can
Right.
take forever, and with incest cases, like, what happens if said person doesn't want to take a DNA test or a blood test to be like, yeah, this person actually
Right.
did commit incest, and then you have to get a court order for a DNA test, and that takes ages, and it's just like, it is an impossible task, you know?
Right, exactly. And, like, again, I think it just, like, goes to the further. I think a lot of people listening are probably just infuriated at the idea that, like, we even have to have this nuanced conversation of, like, how am I supposed to prove that, you know, what are the procedures to prove that somebody sexually assaulted me? What are the procedures to prove that my pregnancy is non-viable? It's like, this shouldn't even exist, period. This should not exist. And again, you know, because 2016 and you know, Democrats losing that election, Donald Trump was able to appoint his Supreme Court judges, and unfortunately we lost. You know, women lost the constitutional right to an abortion. But I think that, you know, it's just, I'm really hoping that, you know, abortion is such a winning issue for Democrats. I think, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen the polling that, you know, and regardless of what we think about the polling right now, it's been apparently clear that Democrats' strongest issue at the ballot box is abortion. And I'm really hoping that, you know, that these stories get more national attention. Obviously, I don't want these stories to exist at all. I think Katie Cox and this Jane Doe woman in Kentucky and probably thousands of other women are going through absolute hell. But I hope that we can bring enough light to these issues to say, you know, this is life in America under Republicans. And it just doesn't make sense. You know, I talk to people on the ground all the time who say, you know, like, I say, you know, I live in a very conservative area, right? So they say, like, I'm just tired of the government, you know, invading in my personal, you know, decision making, my life. It's kind of this idea. I know you live in Manhattan, and Manhattan's a busy area, but I tell people all the time that, you know, when you live in, I'm from Atlanta, so when you live in the middle of Atlanta, when I grow up in the middle of Atlanta, I could very clearly see how the government and the government bodies, both federally and locally, are literally are absolutely necessary to continue to have this beautiful city function the way it does, right? Whereas I'm now in a suburb of Kennesaw, Georgia, going to school, and right above me is Canton, Georgia. You start to get really rural, the Marjorie Taylor Greene district. When you drive up there, it's when you live that lifestyle, it's very apparent. I don't want the government involved in anything. They can self-sustain. The federal government and the local government could disappear in a lot of these northern Georgia mountains, and no one would notice. They self-sustain, right? They do their thing, and so they say, and that's the divide. A lot of people say, I don't want the government in my business. Well, okay, you don't want the government in your business, so why the fuck, excuse my language, is the government involving themselves in healthcare decisions between a woman and her body? It's the hypocrisy there is mind-boggling.
No, but that's the thing. It's like there are actually a lot of communities in the United States that are somewhat self-sustaining, right? Somewhat to a degree. But what happens when someone in that community gets assaulted, and then they need to go have an abortion?
Right.
That you're only self-sustaining to an extent, to the point where it's like, okay, if that happens in your community to a loved one, which is tragic, then you actually need the government to be protecting your rights, or the people in government to be protecting your rights. And not a single Republican is going to do that. And it is really sad to see all these stories. I mean, it feels like we're getting them constantly, even though they're not being talked about enough. And the reality is that if Republicans win, it's only going to get worse, possibly even a national ban or any, whatever happens there.
So I'm sorry if I butt in. I'm sorry to butt in. I actually have a question for you, because you would know this better than I do, because you keep up with a lot of the I don't know how to say this, but in certain areas in politics, you're much more informed. So, I guess it's very up in the air, but in 2024, I mean, what's really the likelihood that, let's say, I think you and I can agree that Joe Biden, and a lot of this also depends on local elections, because local elections are very important for the makeup of Congress, et cetera. But let's talk federally for a second. If Joe Biden loses, God forbid, which he won't, but in a hypothetical world he loses, what's really the reality that they have the votes for, the national abortion ban? Like, what does that really, do you really think that that's something that's plausible, and that they'll be able to rally behind and make happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, in my view, it's definitely plausible, and a lot of people don't think that it is. Like, I think like an average American would be like, oh, it's never going to happen. But that's the same thing we said with Roe. It's never going to be overturned.
Roe, right.
It's never going to happen. And then it does. And then you're like, shit, I have to go out of the country if I want to get the procedure. I think that there's a decent likelihood that it happens. And what I mean by that is, if Trump gets elected and Republicans get the Senate and the Republicans keep the House, and the Senate's a tough map for us this year. Tough map. If Republicans keep the Senate or take the Senate.
I was looking at it the other day. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. There are plenty of different states Republicans could get elected in. If it's like a red wave, which hopefully it's not, I don't think it will be, but if it is, plenty of states Republicans can pick up a seat. And, they already have the House, so if they maintain that House majority, and if Donald Trump wins, Republicans always talk about not being against the filibuster. But when it comes to reproductive rights, they seem to be all in on taking it away. They could abolish the filibuster, get it past the House, get it past the Senate, and then Donald Trump would sign it into law. I mean, I want to remind everybody that Donald Trump's the guy in 2015 who said there has to be some form of punishment for the women who get abortions. This guy is not someone who's going to protect your rights. This is not something that's out of the realm of possibility. It's very, very possible, if not likely, if Republicans win. So we're instead of hearing about these stories of the little girl in Mississippi, or this woman in Kentucky, or Katie Cox in Texas, imagine that everywhere. California, New York, Oregon, all of these liberal states, it'll be the reality for everybody at that point. And so, yeah, I do think it's possible. But I know, you asked me the question. I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you think? Like, do you think it's possible? Like,
yeah, no.
I know we might disagree about.
Yeah. No, I do. I'm very curious. Like, it very much depends a lot on them. Obviously, like, even if, God forbid, there's a red wave and they have the majority, what do a lot of those seats look like, and what does a national abortion ban on paper look like, and what, how that all kind of plays out. But I think that, like, the thing that's kind of missing from people's minds when I talk to them as well is that, like, people don't understand that that's something Donald Trump wants to do. I think they understand that, like, that's something Republicans are very, staunch about. But often when I talk to even Trump supporters, they're, not really under the impression that Donald Trump is willing or able to do something like that. We've seen Donald Trump on a stage for a variety of political reasons at certain points step away from, being very, very staunchly pro-life in his words. But, multiple times very recently, he takes direct credit via tweet, via True Social, via, his own words, saying, I was the one who overturned Roe v. Wade. I did it, me personally, and I'm proud of it. This is a guy that if he has the votes, he will sign a national abortion ban. There's no question. And I think that's what's missing in people's minds, and that I hope Democrats take forward is not only these stories, amplifying these stories, but also making sure that voters are aware in their mind. Donald Trump will do this if he has the votes. You know what I mean?
And it really bothers me, and I think we're kind of seeing this rhetoric a lot right now. It really bothers me when people are like, oh, you're just fear-mongering. I think we're seeing it kind of from the far left right now, of people being like, you're just trying to scare us into voting for Joe Biden. Or he's seeing it from the far right, the MAGA, saying, oh, you're just trying to fear-monger about Donald Trump. He's not a dictator. He won't do this or that. And it's like, how many times do the American people have to be slapped in the face with reality in terms of Roe being overturned and all these terrible things that Trump did before we start taking what the Republicans are saying seriously? I mean, it's just insane to me.
Right, no, exactly. And I think that's the last point is exactly that. There's too many people who as I've grown in politics over the last year, and if there's anyone listening, maybe you're trying to you're just interested in politics, or maybe you haven't been super into it, but you kind of are interested in the upcoming 2024 election. My main message to you would be that politics flip on a dime, in the sense that the average voter and what they're thinking and kind of the atmosphere, the feeling in the air, flips very, very, very fast. And so, when you're, the main thing I've taken away from the last, just little over a year being very invested in this is seeing, people seem to, the recency bias, it's like sports. If you watch sports and some fucking NBA player goes absolutely ballistic and everyone's like, oh, that guy's so good, but they forgot the last 15 games where he played terribly. It's recency bias in sports is a big thing. Recency bias in politics is a big thing. People just seem to, I talk to them and they're like, oh, that it's people are fear mongering about Trump, he would never do anything that bad. It's yeah, that's exactly what people who didn't show up to vote in 2016 said. When Democrats said, it's possible hypothetically that he could appoint a certain amount of justices if God forbid people pass away or retire, and then we could lose Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump's presidency could be really tragic. And a bunch of people who didn't want to show up to vote said, you're fear-mongering about it. And then we lost Roe v. Wade, and a bunch of really tragic things happened. So now we're back at the same place where the same people are saying, I'm retired of the fear-mongering. And I'm so validated in this now by saying, it's not even us. It's not even two little dumb liberal kids saying, oh my God, Donald Trump's going to do this. It's coming from his mouth. It's coming from his advisors that he's planning to, appoint or whatever. They are telling you via interview. They are telling you on national television what they plan to do. They write up with something like Project 2025 to gut the EPA to burn as many fossil fuels as possible. I tell people that, they say you're fear-mongering. I say, I didn't tell you that. They wrote it. They wrote an 80-page document that's public. It's not coming from our mouths. It's coming from theirs, and I would listen to them seriously.
No, and I said this in a TikTok video recently. I actually made a video on, nobody's trying to scare you into voting for Biden. That was the purpose of the video. And I said, my main point is, you don't have to listen to me. You can think I'm a Gen Z liberal dumbass who, why would you be listening to a 21-year-old kid? That's fine. Don't listen to the words that are coming out of their mouth. That's kind of aside from just the issue of reproductive rights, just generally. Donald Trump has said multiple times now that he's going to be a dictator for one day. He says, I'm going to be a dictator for one day. But he's still saying, I'm going to be a dictator. I want to be a dictator. And I think that any American politician who wants to be the president of the United States should not be saying that they're going to be a dictator for any reason. Whatever, I don't care. He's saying, I want to be a dictator to drill and build the wall. I don't care what the reason is. You could be wanting to be a dictator to give fluffy bears to every kid in the United States. I don't care. No. That's
we're living in a foreign world now, Harry. You say, I really don't want any presidential candidate at all saying anything at all remotely close to saying I want to be a dictator. But no, that's a bad take now. That's
no,
like
it's a
you're being
bad
ridiculous.
take, dude. No, it's fear mongering.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, here's the video of him saying it. And they're like, nah, it didn't happen. Like, aside from this, just kind of like off topic again, I had a debate, and this is kind of speaks to the Trump supporter mentality, and not all, but some. I had a debate tonight with a Trump supporter. I'm like, yeah, like Trump is a proven sexual abuser, found liable of sexual abuse in a court of law. And he's like, no, it didn't happen. I'm like, yes, he's like, no, it didn't. I'm like, okay, let's look at the court papers. I show him it. It's embedded in a New York Times article. He's like, no, that's fake. I'm like, what do you mean? You can look this up. He's like, no, it's fake. Like, that's obviously, nothing's real anymore. I could see the trial. He said it, nothing's real in America anymore. I could see the trial happening in front of my face, and I wouldn't believe it. And I'm like, how do we reach these people? How do we tell them that their fundamental rights are on the line?
That's a good question. It's a good question, and yeah, that would be a good topic for an episode, because I question that all the time. I'm like, how do you have conversations? And this is such a divisive word, and I hate it. But I watched that debate. I watched you live debate that guy.
Yeah.
And that's where I almost like look up how psychiatrists recommend. I'm very this is semi also unrelated. I'm very passionate about mental health. I've been kind of like in the mental health field my whole life. I've listened to quite a few doctors. I enjoy it. It's not something I'm going to do for my career, but I find it very fascinating anyways. But you start to look up like what psychiatrists and therapists recommend. How do you talk to a family member about you may be in a CULT, you may be going down that realm. Let's help you, because at the point that you're looking at like federal, court documents, and you're like, no, it's not real. It's only real if it comes out of Trump's mouth. We're in trouble.
No, we're in trouble. We're very. And look, the reason I bring up this story is because it connects to the original thing we were talking about. It's like Trump's terrible policy doesn't discriminate in terms of which specific group of people it's going to affect. So this gentleman I was talking to this evening, if Donald Trump gets into office and signs a national abortion ban into law, if his daughter, if his wife, anybody he knows, God forbid, gets assaulted, Trump's ban doesn't discriminate. It'll apply to him and his family as well. Right. And this is the crucial point. It's like when we're talking about what we advocate for, you and me, and I know like so many amazing people that are watching who are doing terrific work in this field as well. When we're talking about the things we advocate for, we're not just advocating for them for the blue states. We're not just advocating for these policies for Democrats. We're advocating for them for all Americans. And it is very troubling to me that we see Donald Trump and just the Republicans generally pushing this anti-choice policy, among other things, and they, for some reason, believe that they're immune, or that it's just they can ignore it enough and then, it won't happen to them, or something like that. It is, and again, like maybe the right route is to go look at how psychiatrists present things to people, or how professionals in this field do it, because it's like, how do you convince these people who are fellow Americans that their rights are also on the line as well? And I don't know the answer, man.
Right, exactly. No, exactly. It's very well said. It's something that we will continue to ponder deeply up until 2024. Go ahead, Harry. Let's hear your story. I'm excited for this.
So this actually, what we were just talking about, kind of segues nicely into what we were just mentioning. So again, I told Chris the topic ahead of time. He hasn't read the article, but a recent Axios article came out, exclusive to the paper, about some discussions being had in the Trump world for a potential cabinet, for people he would want serving in his cabinet, in his presidency, in the executive branch, and other positions that the president appoints. And man, is it scary. So we're going to go through this article together because it's just not good. And you might actually see some of the pictures down here. So it's called Behind the Curtain. It's an exclusive. How Trump would build his...
Whoa. Yeah. I see three very unfortunate pictures. Now, very familiar at the top left. Okay, go ahead.
No. Here, it gets worse. This is how Trump would build his loyalty first cabinet. You know these people are here, Chris, the top three?
Yes, I'm familiar.
So for the viewers... So for the people on YouTube or the audio people, there's a picture on here in this article, and these three names are mentioned in the article. It's 3 out of 6 pictures we're showing on the screen right now. The far left is Stephen Miller, former Trump advisor, current lunatic. J.D. Vance, current senator from Ohio, current idiot. Steve Bannon, criminal defendant and lunatic. Those are 3 people already being discussed about to serve in a potential Trump term. Now I'm going to reveal these last 3 pictures, and I want Chris's genuine reaction to who we're looking at here. You ready?
Dude, I'm actually scared.
See this guy in the middle?
That is not Tucker Carlson in the middle.
That is Tucker Carlson.
For what fucking... Oh, for what position? For what fucking position?
Oh, we're going to get there, buddy.
That is insane. What is
we're
this,
gonna get
dude?
there.
This is crazy. Wait, who is that on the far right?
This, I think, is Mike Davis. He's also included in this article. I think, his name is right here. I think that's Mike Davis. But this guy, you might know him. His name is Kash Patel. Are you familiar with Kash Patel? Yeah, maker of the 2,000 Mules, serving in our government. Trump is, we'll talk about what position he's considering Kash Patel for.
Oh, my God.
But it gets really bad.
Continue.
It gets really bad. You're right. So former President Trump, if elected, would build a cabinet and White House staff based mainly on two imperatives: pre-vetted loyalty to him and a commitment to stretch legal and governance boundaries. Why it matters. So here we go. Trump would fill the most powerful jobs in the government with people like Stephen Miller, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, Kash Patel, with the possible return of Steve Bannon. If Trump won in 2024, he'd turn to loyalists who share his zeal to punish critics, purge non-believers, and take controversial legal and military action. That's just a variety of things. Some of these people have mentioned that they want to jail critics, including government officials and journalists. They want to deport undocumented immigrants or put them in detainment camps. They even want to unleash the military to target drug cartels in Mexico, or even possibly crack down on criminals or protesters at home. So using the American military against the people. And also, this is actually... None of these people that we're mentioning here, is speculation. It's not like sources report. They've said it on video, as we were talking about, Chris, earlier. These are their words. They are saying this stuff. I digress. So Trump hasn't settled on specific roles for all these people, but it's all being kind of discussed. Like all these names are just kind of being thrown up in the air. And as it's been reported, Trump and his campaign and his team are spending millions upon millions of dollars to vet loyalists for up to 50,000 lower-level government jobs in the Trump administration. So all these different federal agencies, of which kind of change over when the new president is elected. Normally you put in like experienced people, people who've worked in this field. They're not really political. You're not going to put in a Democrat or Republican.
Dude.
You're just putting in people who are good at their job.
Just stop your fucking nonsense for a minute. Just shut up. How did I miss... Dude, this is crazy. No, hold on. Obviously, like, I hear the Tucker, I hear the Stephen Miller, I hear the J.D. Vance. I'm like, okay, this is bad. This line that I'm staring at is actually sends shivers down my spine. I was not aware of this, actually.
Yes.
We wrote last month about the multi-million-dollar effort to vet loyalists for up to 50,000 lower-level government jobs in a Trump administration.
That's right.
Dude. It's a fuck. This is so, dude. I can't even put into words how terrifying this is. But like, you were talking about a president and an administration that's vetting purely off, it's a cult. It's the leader. It's a dictatorship. Like, yeah, Chris, I hate to use that word. I know we have, we have a representative democracy here in America, but what the fuck? What am I looking at?
Now, Chris, I just want you to picture something for me, just and for the viewers as well and listeners. Imagine the DOJ, the EPA, all these agencies that do really important work. The Department of Homeland Security.
Pause. There's no such thing as the EPA under the Trump administration.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. So don't get the EPA's gone to begin with.
That shit's getting demolished.
They're putting a golden statue of Trump in.
There's not a soul that works there. Anyway, continue.
No, yeah. So imagine the Department of Homeland Security, DOJ, all these agencies, and do really important work, and the people that are leading them and working in them are not experienced. They have no. Ask them what the DOJ stands for. They will not know. They've never stepped foot in a law class in their entire lives. They're just going to be. They're going to know three words: I love Trump. That's what the job qualification is. And imagine FEMA. Like a disaster happens. We're seeing like these hurricanes. Pummel Puerto Rico, Florida, all these states in the United States during hurricane season, and you need a good FEMA response. You saw the wildfires in Hawaii. Of course, FEMA was crucial there in getting people back on their feet. Imagine all of that not led by people who know how to lead these organizations, who have worked in disaster response or any of that, imagine they're just Trump loyalists. Right?
Yeah. I think that the first thing that comes to mind here is just discussing with Americans how different a second Trump administration is from the first, right? Trump is eyeing the fact, and you can, again, hear it from his own words, when he gets up on a stage and he says, these people in my own administration did me wrong. I asked them to find the votes, or maybe, whatever. Republicans, rhinos, whoever, they did me wrong. I asked them to find the votes, or I asked them to do this. They didn't do it. I fired him. And, it says down here, this is very different from the early days of his first term. More conventional officials were there: John Kelly, James Mattis, etc. So, the second Trump administration is a cut. Like I tell people this, it's and this is a perfect article to pull up. It's cutthroat. Like, he's not gonna mess it up this time. If he wants things to go the way, if it's Trump, if it goes when Trump says it, if Trump wants it, it happens. There is no questions asked. There is no Donald Trump. This is not how the presidency works. That doesn't exist in the second term. There's no pushback from that. There's no people in the administration who watch January 6th and say, like, oh, Mr. President, please stop this. It's Donald Trump rules all. And also, by the way, I have to point out, I laughed in my own head about this at the top here. Trump hasn't settled on specific roles for specific figures. He hates it when his staff and friends speculate otherwise. Quote, it's not in his DNA to do detailed personal planning. I don't think it's in Donald Trump's DNA to do fucking... What do you mean it's not in his DNA to do personal planning? I don't know that Donald Trump has ever planned anything ever in his life. It's not in his DNA to fucking know how to do anything. I don't think it's in Donald Trump's DNA to, like, do a fucking load of laundry. I don't... it's not... What is in Donald Trump's DNA? What is it? Right. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, so that... So, yeah, we're talking about these 50,000 people. And those are, of course, in lower level administration positions, but they still matter. They're very important. Now, here's on what's being discussed among Trump and a small group of confidants. Trump openly talks to friends about several possibilities for running mate. Table stakes for these candidates is proving you believe the 2020 election was stolen and that former Vice President Mike Pence wimped out. Those who are being considered are J.D. Vance, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Carrie Lake, Kristi Noem, all of these people. And I mean, the thought of, like, J.D. Vance or Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Carrie Lake, Kristi Noem, as any of these people as vice president is terrifying. But you have Rep. Byron Donalds, who's, of course, traveled with Trump on the campaign. He is being considered for his positions. He would love to be a VP. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who lost her House committee assignments because she posts baseless conspiracy theories, but also is in the conversation of being VP. But here's an interesting twist to the whole thing. Melania Trump is an advocate for picking Tucker Carlson as VP. She thinks that Carlson would make a powerful on-stage extension of her husband, a source close to Donald Trump told us. The First Lady has made few campaign appearances this time around, but a Trump-Carlson ticket might encourage her to hit the trail. Trump was asked last month about Carlson as a potential VP. He said, I like Tucker a lot. He's got great common sense.
Right, yeah, Tucker's got great common sense, right?
Yeah, okay. For sure.
I actually saw the Melania Trump thing about Tucker on Twitter, but Twitter's kind of a right-wing cesspool, so I didn't think much of it. But yeah, I mean, I actually think that's, like, really terrifying. I mean, obviously, it's very hard to take anything Tucker Carlson says at face value, considering, he's the mastermind of a mastermind to a $780 million defamation lawsuit about the 2020 election, where the entire time he's like, oh yeah, I know this wasn't stolen, but I'm going to keep getting on air and saying it was stolen. Yeah. Essentially crumbled Fox News. But I think that's really scary. I think that, like, there's enough Americans who have, like, Fox, I don't know about the numbers now, but when, Tucker was there and just very recently, they were the most watched cable news network in America. And so there's a lot of people who probably don't like Trump but really like Tucker Carlson. And I don't like that idea as VP. I don't.
Yeah, one heartbeat away from the presidency is Tucker Carlson. I mean, what a joke. And it just doesn't end there. Stephen Miller could be your next attorney general. And if not, he would get a cabinet level role to greatly influence immigration policy. He was obviously the architect of a lot of Trump's most controversial policies, such as family separation. So Stephen Miller is human garbage. And yeah, Mike Davis, the former chief counsel for nominations to the then Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley to be Trump's interim attorney general, saying it would be a, quote, shot across the bow of the swamp, whatever the hell that means. Steve Bannon, in the early days of in the early days of Trump's first term, he'd arguably be the most powerful man on the staff, plotting personnel and policy decisions from Capitol Hill. And then he was ousted, of course, but people are talking about him coming back. Kash Patel, all these people we're talking about here, may very well make a comeback in the Trump administration. Steve Bannon, all these people that, are garbage human beings, just utter trash, have no idea what they're talking about. And and if Trump wins, not only are they coming back, but they might be in high-level cabinet positions, influencing some of the most important policy in the United States. That sounds like a fucking nightmare to me. Excuse my language, but that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Please, God, go vote. Go vote. I need you to put the 2024 date wherever you are. I need you to get every friend, every family member. You need to go vote for Joe Biden and Joe Biden exclusively, because dude, that is wild. I've not read the Axios article. I was very not familiar with him vetting such low-level people.
Oh, it's an up and down thing.
I knew he wasn't going to make mistakes his second term in terms of what he wants, in terms of him having loyalists. I did not realize it would go that deep. That is, when does this guy run out of cash? This shit is so confusing to me. Like, he doesn't pay. He's forced to pay $5 million to E. Jean Carroll. He hasn't paid it, as far as I'm aware. And there's all these question marks. He's spending absurd amounts of money on legal fees right now. Like, absurd amounts. Like, guys, you have to assume, right? This man is facing 91 felonies, and all these civil cases, and every lawyer he's got is charging at least $600 an hour. Minimum. That man is spending tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've seen them even talk about on Fox, like, it's very unclear. No one's really understands how much cash this guy has. That's another misconception very quickly amongst Trump supporters, is it's actually really unclear how much money this guy has. No one really knows. We have some bits and pieces of some tax returns where he's holding insanely high amounts of debt. But he never released his tax returns. He's on trial right now for fraud about inflating the worth of his property. So I don't know. I'm just saying, there's a curveball in here where this fucking guy runs out of cash. He needs to. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean,
wild.
Absolutely. I mean, this is happening, and people. This is again when we talk about the dictatorship, people don't understand that if Trump, what Trump would do here is invoke this. I think it's Title F of this certain law that allows him to just. Trump administration officials or Trump loyalists think that it gives him the right to basically fire all these people. And if that's upheld in court, he could fire them. And people how could we ever get a dictatorship when Donald Trump fills every important agency with people who only does what he wants them to do? That's how the fuck we get a dictatorship, right. When he puts court. Right. There are so many Trump judges out there who have been rated by the American Bar Association, a nonpartisan group, American Bar Association, as unqualified. So how you get a Trump dictatorship? Easy. Get 50,000 loyalists in the government in crucial agencies, appoint a bunch of judges that don't know what the hell they're doing except I love Trump, and then boom, every court ruling will be in Trump's favor. Oh my God.
That's actually incredibly well said, because again, people are that would never happen. It's even on a lower level, just from a logical stance, we're seeing it happen. We're seeing people who don't believe or have been caught privately being I don't like Donald Trump, I don't believe what he says, but they have spit the most nonsensical stuff of literally carrying around a Trump statue, bowing every knee to Donald Trump. We've seen private text messages that Trump posted, I don't even know from who, where he's getting spam texted please Mr. Trump, please endorse me, I love you so much, I mentioned you on the camera. These people, literally, it's embarrassing, but we have seen a group of people who are willing to say anything to get on Trump's side, because in their mind, they think that if Trump gives them the endorsement, that's their ticket to high up positions, to a successful career, to Congress, to the vice presidency, to a cabinet official spot. That's pure selfishness. But we're already seeing that in multiple different ways with multiple different people who are Trump loyalists who don't believe it. So now just imagine Trump vets a bunch of people who are sitting around who have no qualifications, who are like, it would really, really be nice to like make a bunch of money and be well known. I love you, Trump. I love you so much. I've never loved anyone more. There's 50,000 people in America who would do that.
Chris, you don't even have to get people who are like, publicly loyal to Trump, but privately. Get fucking Larry from my live stream who was saying that the documents are fake. Put him in the EPA. Put him in the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, Larry. Listen, Larry's on construction. No, Larry. Dude, Larry's on fucking. Guys, I'm so sorry about my hair, dude. My hair's ridiculous. I can't fucking see. I keep having to move. Dude, Larry's gonna be on EPA construction duty. Like, cause there's gonna be there's these huge regional EPA buildings. Like, there's one in Atlanta for the Southeast. Larry's going to be head of construction. Like, yep, that bulldozer straight through, tear it down, planting the explosives. Because the EPA is not going to exist. They got to get rid of those buildings. So once Larry's done with tearing up the EPA and the buildings and gutting that whole thing, I guess he'll get another spot.
Yeah, I actually just got some breaking news on my phone that Larry's being considered for assistant to attorney general in the Trump administration.
Well, fucking Larry, dude. Yeah, look out for Larry in the Trump administration, man.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Dude,
I mean, you don't even need people who are publicly loyal to him but privately not. Just put in like Larry, put in David, put in John.
Literally, guys. Like, if you before we end this off, we have been doing like a lot more debates on TikTok Live. So like my TikTok is Chris D Mowry. It'll be in the bio if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, whatever. And then Harry J Sisson. We do these debates separately on our own accounts. Where like we'll put up something like why do you like Donald Trump, or like come debate me about Trump, and we get Trump supporters up one-on-one and we debate them live, or a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people, whatever, to watch. Dude, the people you get are like it'll blow your mind. It's very entertaining. It would mean a lot if you can't come check it out, because Harry had Larry tonight, and Larry, I listened for a bit. Harry, I'm not lying to you, I had to turn off my phone because I was getting like worked up. Because I watched the part where you're like, he was found liable for sexually abusing and sexual abuse and defamation against E.G. and Carroll. I have the court documents right here, and he was like, "That's not real.
Yep,
it's fake."
Yep.
What?
What?
What the fuck? What are we? Holy shit!
But don't worry, he's going to be the next Attorney General of the United States. Don't worry, he'll be on the Supreme Court in no time.
That should be the name of the episode. Actually, we can't call people out like that. I said.
Yeah, we can't do that. God, I mean, what a mess. I mean, this is why we're screaming on TikTok every day. It's important to vote, man. I can't have Larry knocking on my door as FBI agent number 5, in the Trump administration.
FBI agent Larry be like, "Yep, Harry, you're coming with us, buddy. You're coming with us. You posted too many anti-Trump TikToks." Listen, guys, this was very fun. This was a different way than we've done all the rest of our episodes. It's why we took a 2-week break. We're going to kind of come with this theme now. Let us know in the comments if you like it, or DM us if you like it. You can email us questions. We want to really get back to the end of these episodes answering people's questions, or if you just want to say something and want to be featured on the podcast, your email will be put up here. The email is questions@cmhsunplug.com, and I'll put a little text bubble in the middle. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check that out. It's also in the bio, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Questions@cmhsunplug. We're on a bunch of other platforms. We also still do have our Patreon. However, that's also kind of getting a complete makeover, redo. So we do appreciate everyone who supported so far. I might end up sending money back, because I know it has not been great. And the fact that you guys would even just listen, money doesn't matter. The fact that you guys would just listen means you guys have a place in our hearts. So I'm working on the Patreon, but if you are someone who is subscribed, I want you to know I love you. You are so special to me. I appreciate you. I might send a refund. We're really just trying to work a bunch of stuff out, but we do appreciate you a lot. So with that being said, we'll be back here Monday, 1 p.m. Any parting words, Harry?
No, but we appreciate the hell out of you guys. Thank you for listening.
Yes, we do. Now it's late. Maybe I'll go like kick your ass in Madden or something.
Yeah, you wish, buddy. You wish, champ.
How do you run 4 verts on 3rd and 10? It's such like a mid play, dude.
You know how I do it? I run it and then I dot you up.
It's casual. Like, that's a casual play. I can see fucking PA crossers from like a mile away. I see the formation, dude. You
Then
gotta run
stop
something better.
Then stop it. You can't stop
That's
it.
why I've beat you. 1, 2. That's why I've beat you like 4 games in a row.
You've never beaten me. You've never beaten me in Madden.
Are you taking the Trump stance now? Like, oh, it never happened. Even when I pull up the pictures, you're like, oh,
this guy's literally a liar.
All right, everybody. All right, guys. We'll catch you in the next one Monday, 1 o'clock. We appreciate you guys a lot. Peace.